Patriots fans, look at the full picture because none of this feels accidental. One receiver stays away from OTAs and Vrabel still keeps the line of communication open. The market keeps whispering about a major trade, then another defensive possibility pops up and changes the equation. Veterans are missing from the field and a rookie suddenly steals attention. While everybody tries to figure out the next move, Foxborough feels like it is testing patience, price, and opportunity. Drop a like if you're watching every signal with us. The first piece on this board is Kayshon Boutte. When a receiver is heading into a contract year, misses OTAs, and has his name attached to trade rumors involving A.J. Brown, fans are going to feel that tension immediately. But the key part here is not screaming crisis. It's paying attention to how Mike Vrabel is handling it. Vrabel said he is still communicating with Boutte. The way he explained it, the conversation sounds direct, honest, and pretty human. Checking on how he's doing, asking if he's working, asking if he's in the right place to train. Boutte told him he likes where he's working out. Vrabel's response says a lot about this new culture. "When you're here, we'll be ready to coach you." To me, that sounds like a coach who is not begging anyone to show up, but he is not torching the bridge either. Vrabel spoke with respect, mentioned Boutte's growth, credited Todd Downing's work, and said he expects the player to pick up where he left off and keep building on last season. And that season was not nothing. 33 catches, 551 yards, and 6 touchdowns. For a 6th-round pick from 2023, that is legitimate production. So let's talk about it like grown-up fans. If Boutte is frustrated with his role, snaps, targets, pecking order, or future, that has to be solved through real conversations and real work on the field. New England cannot afford to waste a productive player, especially in a receiver room still searching for clear definition. But there is also a standard in Foxborough that Vrabel seems set on reinforcing. Nobody is bigger than the process, and presence, work, and competition still matter. The emotional side is easy to understand. We want to see Boutte here, bought into the fight, using his contract year as fuel, and forcing this staff to carve out space for him. But if the market keeps moving and his name keeps getting connected to bigger packages, Eliot Wolf also has to think about the value of the roster. Is that uncomfortable? Absolutely. But a team trying to knock on that big door again cannot hide from these decisions. For now, Vrabel's message feels calm but firm. The door is open. The respect is still there. But the season is coming, and in Foxborough, opportunity does not sit around forever. That's where the second story cranks the volume up, because if Boutte represents some internal tension on offense, this Kayvon Thibodeaux idea raises a much bigger question for the defense. Do the Patriots already have enough quarterback pressure? Or is there still one market swing sitting out there that could lift the ceiling of the entire group? The trade idea from ESPN's Dan Graziano is the type that makes a fan stop and raise an eyebrow. Giants get a 2027 5th-round pick. Patriots get Thibodeaux. That's it. A 5th. And when you look at New England's situation, it is not hard to understand why this possibility has the fan base thinking. The team lost Kayvon in free agency, brought in Dre'Mont Jones, drafted Gabe Hakis and Quintavious Hutchins. But leaning too much on rookie edge players is always a risky bet. Harold Landry III helps, Jones helps, but a rotation that wants to scare big-time offenses needs layers. Thibodeaux is not just some random name being tossed around. He is only 25, and he had an 11.5 sack season 2 years ago. At the same time, his numbers have dropped over the last couple seasons in New York, and that is exactly why this conversation even exists. If he were at his absolute peak, producing with no concerns attached, nobody would be talking about a 5th-round pick. That is the point. The Patriots could be looking at hidden value, a young, explosive player who might need a different environment, a different role, and a different spark. And there is one detail that makes it even more interesting. Shane Bowen, now on Mike Vrabel's defensive staff, worked with Thibodeaux on the Giants. That can cut both ways. Maybe New England knows things that make them excited. Maybe they know things that make them pause. But if the internal read is positive, that connection becomes a real advantage, because this would not be a blind bet. It would be an evaluation with history, with real familiarity, and with a true sense of fit. Picture the setup. Dre'Mont Jones, Harold Landry III, and Kayvon Thibodeaux attacking protections, while J.K. and Hutchins do not have to be instant saviors. That is smart roster building. That is giving rookies time to grow without dumping the weight of the season on their backs in May. And for a team trying to stay in the big fight, pass rush depth is not some luxury. It is survival. Of course, Thibodeaux is on his 5th-year option and could want a new deal after that. But for a 5th-round pick, with a chance to test the fit for one season, That move feels like opportunity. It is not throwing money into the wind. It is buying upside with controlled risk. And if he pops in Foxborough, the conversation changes fast. Then we get one of those NFL calendar moments I love, because that is when a narrative starts getting challenged on the field. Karon Prunty came to the Patriots as a fifth-round pick, and let's be honest, plenty of people did not love it. Analysts called it a reach. Some projections had him going undrafted. It was that classic offseason reaction. If the name was not part of the consensus, the team must have messed up. But football is not a mock draft spreadsheet. Football is practice, instinct, opportunity, repetition, and the guts to take your shot when it shows up. And in the first spring practice open to the media, Prunty did exactly what a player in that spot has to do. He made noise. He had the only interception of the day off Drake Maye, and some reporters said he took it all the way to the end zone for a pick six. That does not mean he is suddenly a starter. Relax. But it does mean he pushed into the conversation. And for a fifth-round pick surrounded by doubt, getting into the conversation early is huge, especially with Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez not present. When two strong names at the position are out, the depth gets the spotlight. And if you're Prunty, you really cannot ask for a better setup to show that maybe Vrabel and Eliot Wolf saw something before everyone else did. What hits me emotionally with this story is the respect piece. Every year, there is a player who arrives carrying labels from everybody else. Too slow, too old, too raw, too unknown, picked too early. And every year, one of those guys looks at the outside noise and answers with football. Prunty still has a tough road because cornerback in New England is not a tourist position. You have to compete snap by snap, understand leverage, communication, routes, disguise, technique, all of it. But this start gives you a reason to pay attention. It also sends a message to the fan base. Not every pick has to make sense the second it gets announced to make sense later. Sometimes scouting is hunting for a specific trait. Sometimes the staff sees a fit. Sometimes the player just needs a door to open. Patriots Nation, I want to know where you stand. Do you see Prunty as a real surprise who can fight for a spot, or is it still too early to get excited? Because if he keeps stacking practices, this conversation can flip quickly. Criticism becomes curiosity. Doubt becomes competition. And on a roster that needs depth to survive a long season, finding value in a question pick can turn into a huge, quiet win. And then we get to the topic that has half the fan base dreaming big and the other half doing the math late at night. A.J. Brown and the Patriots. For weeks, the feeling around this conversation was that something might be lined up, maybe waiting for the calendar to flip past June 1st because of the financial impact for Philadelphia. But then Ian Rapoport and Josina Anderson stepped in and cooled down everybody who had already written this trade in ink. Rapoport brought the point that changes everything. The Eagles want a first-round pick for Brown, and the Patriots at this moment are not willing to pay that price. That is massive. Because wanting a true number one receiver is one thing, sending a first-round pick for an expensive player with a long contract and some long-term concern around his knee is another. The difference between excitement and responsible roster management lives right on that line. Josina Anderson also pointed to a disagreement over compensation, even mentioning the possibility of a pick swap. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about how big negotiations usually work. It is not just do you want him or not. It is which pick goes in, which pick comes back, whether there is a condition, whether there is protection, whether the structure reduces the risk. That is where a general manager wins or loses value before the player ever steps on the field. Emotionally, I totally understand the fans who want Brown yesterday. The Patriots offense needs an alpha. Drake Maye deserves a target who changes coverage, who makes safeties think twice, who turns third down into a physical fight, and makes the red zone feel like a real threat. Brown is that kind of player. He is not just another famous name. He can change the entire geometry of the offense. But this is where Vrabel and Eliot Wolf have to stay cold without losing aggression. If you are that close to fighting for the Lombardi, you cannot operate scared. But you also cannot negotiate like a desperate fan. A first-round pick is heavy ammunition, especially for a roster that, even with strength, still needs depth, youth, and flexibility. My read? The negotiation still has room to breathe. Insiders saying it is not complete does not kill the possibility. It only shows the price is still being fought over. And if the Eagles lower the ask, or if a pick swap structure protects New England, it gets dangerously interesting again. A.J. Brown cannot be treated like some random fantasy. If he comes, he changes the offense. If he costs too much, he could tie up the future. That is why this moment is so tense. The Patriots need to be bold, but the right kind of bold is the kind that wins on Sunday without wrecking Tuesday. When you put it all together, this is the picture of the Patriots right now. Nothing is sitting still. Boutte is creating distance, Vrabel is keeping the bridge intact, Thibodeaux appears as a value possibility, and the defense could gain another layer. Prunty proves a criticized pick can still answer on the field. And A.J. Brown keeps hanging over everything as the giant move that demands courage, but also calculation. It is the offseason, yes, but in Foxborough, every detail feels like it carries weight. So stay with me through this ride because this team is being shaped. If you want to follow every twist with us, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This is Real Pats Nation.